An eyewitness by the name of Howard Brennan. So the police get their initial description of Lee Harvey Oswald from an eyewitness by the name of Howard Brennan. So as soon as they find out that Lee Harvey Oswald is missing, they want to get a description because they're going to send out an all-points bulletin to every police officer in the area to try to find this missing employee. This doesn't mean he's the guy, but certainly he's going to be a guy of interest if he's the only one not there. So the reason they talked to Howard Brennan is because he immediately claimed he saw a man on the 6th floor of the depository fire a third shot. That's what he told the police, that he saw someone on the 6th floor window firing what he said was the third shot. He must have heard the first two and then looked up to where he thought they were coming from and said he saw this man fire the third shot from the 6th floor window. So that's why they talked to Howard Brennan, because he claimed he saw a man on the 6th floor of the depository fire the final shot. Now he, according to reports, was about 107 feet from the front of the depository. That's where he was. So he was about 30 yards from the front of the depository. My guess is that he was watching the president, heard the first couple shots, took a look up, and claimed he saw a man in the window firing the third shot. Well, once Brennan gave his description, they did relay that information to all police units in the area. Okay? So, think about this. Within 1 hour of the assassination, by 1:30 Central Standard Time, the Dallas Police Department had these 6 things. This is what they had in the case. These 6 things within an hour. So you can tell me what they have. What's one of the things they had, Levi? They had the rifle used in the shooting. Callie, what else did they have?
They had the location of the shooting.
Yeah, they found the sniper's post. The location, the sniper's post. So they have the rifle, they have the location. What else do they have, Mauricio? What else do they have on this case? What have they found? 3 spent shell casings. What else did they have? They had the suspect, and they had a description of the suspect. 2 different things. So, they found the sniper's post, they found the spent shells, they found the rifle, they had a description of the suspect, and they had the name of the suspect. One other thing they had that was pretty crucial is they found also up there a brown paper with gun oil on it. They found brown paper with gun oil on it. And that'll come back later in our lecture why that's important. They also found a brown paper with gun oil on it. What do you think that was used for? That's what the gun they thought was wrapped in when it was taken up to the depository. So here's what they had within an hour. This is pretty good police work. They had the sniper's post, they found spent shells, they found the rifle, they had the name of the suspect, the description of the suspect, and they found brown paper with gun oil on it that more than likely the rifle was wrapped into to bring it into the depository. So they really had a lot of information within an hour. Okay, that'll take us then to the route that Lee Harvey Oswald took from the time he made the shots until he's captured. Okay, the route of Lee Harvey Oswald from Dealey Plaza. Well, we got to find out kind of what he did. This is a pretty good story. Now, what time was the president shot? Final shot, 12:30. At 12:31, 1 minute after the final shot, a Dallas police officer by the name of Marion Baker ran into the Texas School Book Depository with his pistol drawn. At 12:31, a minute after the shots were fired, Dallas police officer Marion Baker rushed into the Texas School Book Depository and had his pistol drawn. Why would he go in there so quick with his pistol drawn? Because he thought that's where the shot came from. He was in Dealey Plaza and that's where he went. I'll tell you the story in a minute. He actually was a motorcycle patrolman in the motorcade. And as soon as the shots fired, he pulled his motorcycle over because he thought the shots came from the rear of the right rear of the president, and the building he saw was a Texas School Book Depository. He dumped his motorcycle, so to speak, and ran into the depository at 12:31 with his pistol drawn. He was one of the motorcycle police officers in the motorcade. Well, when he got into the depository, he ran into a guy by the name of Roy Truly. Baker immediately encountered Roy Truly, who was the building superintendent. What does that mean? If he's the building superintendent, what does that mean? Hey, Mr. Nicholas is the school superintendent. He's in charge of the school. What was Roy Truly in charge of? The Texas School Book Depository. He is the man in charge. He's the overall boss. Well, this is kind of an interesting story because Truly led Baker to the back stairwell so they could get on the elevators because they were going to search. So Truly led Baker to the back stairwell of the depository where the elevators were. They were going to get on the elevator. Well, Baker didn't want to wait for the elevator, so what did he do? Ran up the stairs as Truly followed him. So Truly was thinking, well, we'll just take the elevator, and kind of got Baker towards the back area there, and he said, you don't have time, so he just got on the stairs and started running up the stairs checking for people to see who might be leaving the depository. Well, when they got on the second floor, Baker looked through a glass door and saw a man in the room on the second floor. So as Truly is running up the stairs, as he's on the second floor getting ready to jump on the stairs for the third, he looks through a window, probably about like that door there with that window, and he sees a man in there.
Who saw me in there?
Baker, the police officer, sees a man in there. And so he opens the door and he says to Truly, do you know this man? Does he work here? And Truly responded, yes, he works for me. So as Truly and Baker are running up the stairs, Baker sees a man in a room on the second floor, opens the door, says to Truly, do you know this man? Does he work here? And Truly responds, yes, he works for me. So what did they do? They left the guy there and continued to run up the stairs. Guess who that guy was on the second floor? Lee Harvey Oswald, on his way down after the assassination. Now, remember I said the Dallas Police Department made the decision to lock down the Texas School Book Depository within minutes of the assassination? It officially was locked down at 12:35. So from the time Baker got off his motorcycle to 12:35 before it got locked down, how many minutes? And in that time, where was Lee Harvey Oswald in that 4 minutes? On the second floor. And what do you think he probably did before they shut it down? He actually walked right out the front door is what he did. Walked right out the front door. So at 12:35 p.m., the Dallas Police Department made the decision to lock down the Texas School Book Depository, and unfortunately it would be too late as Oswald would have left the building. They figured about 3 minutes after the assassination. It took him 3 minutes to get down the stairs and out the front door. Okay? Approximately. So, where is he right now? He's walked out the front door of the Texas School Book Depository, and he turns and heads east, covering 7 blocks to the corner of Elm and Murphy Street. These are all on your ID sheet, I believe. So Oswald exits out the front door of the depository and heads east. And he walks 7 blocks to the corner of Elm and Murphy Street. I've been there. I'm going to show you these pictures. When Blake Kroger and I went, we walked this entire, we did this whole route. Did the whole thing. So Oswald exited out the front door of the depository. He headed east, and he covered 7 blocks to the corner of Elm and Murphy Street. At Elm and Murphy, he got on a city bus at 12:40 p.m. Got on a city bus at the intersection of Elm and Murphy Street at 12:40 p.m. How do we know that?
Bus ticket.
Because the bus driver, Cecil McWaters, reported that to authorities. So from there, Oswald boarded a city bus at 12:40 p.m. That was according to bus driver Cecil McWaters. Now this was kind of weird because McWaters testified that Oswald didn't get on the bus at what they considered a regular stop. Okay? He basically, as the bus was slowing down on the corner of Elm and Murphy, knocked on the door. He opened the door, he paid his exact fare and sat down. So he didn't get on at a regular bus stop. He walked those 7 blocks up, got to the corner of Elm and Murphy, saw the bus coming. Bus was kind of slowing down to a stop, knocked on the door, not at a regular spot. Cecil McWaters didn't know any different. He didn't know what was going on. Let him in, paid his fare, sat down. Well, the bus wasn't going very fast. Why do you think? Because of all the traffic from this craziness that was going on during the assassination. So because of the heavy traffic slowing the bus down, Oswald got frustrated and left the bus, got off at 12:44. And if you look at the back of that handout I gave you, this is the copy of the bus transfer found in Oswald's pocket that was identified by bus driver Cecil McWaters. And you can see what the ticket looks like, and you can see a picture of Cecil McWaters. Okay, so this is how they knew when he got on and off the bus. Okay, that's how we know that information. Well, after he left the bus, he walked a pretty short distance to a nearby Greyhound bus station. He walked to a nearby Greyhound bus station. Not very far, I walked it. Blake Kroger and I walked the whole thing. But he didn't get on a Greyhound bus, he hailed down a taxi cab and got on the taxi cab at 12:47 p.m. So he gets off the bus, because it's going too slow, he walks a very short distance to the Greyhound bus station and hails down a taxi cab, and he gets on the taxi cab at 12:47. How do we know that? Because the taxi driver, William Whaley, testified to that. So he got on a taxi cab at 12:47. And that was according to taxi driver William Whaley. Now, Whaley doesn't have any idea that there's been an assassination of the president either at this point. And Oswald tells him to take him to the 500 block of North Beckley Street, which is on your ID sheet. He tells the bus driver to take him to the 500 block of North Beckley Street. The 500 block of North Beckley Street. Now that was located in a suburb of Dallas known as Oak Cliff. Okay, so Oswald tells the taxi driver, Whaley, to take him to the 500 block of North Beckley Street. And that was located in the Oak Cliff suburb of Dallas. It's a suburb of Dallas just like you have suburbs of every other city. Now, what do you do if you ask somebody to take you to the 500 block? What does that mean? Are you taking him to a specific location? No, he just wants to be dropped off at the 500 block. Where as you walk down North Beckley, you have 500, 501, 503, and then 50. He wanted to be dropped off at the intersection, not at any specific location. Keep that in mind. Well, Whaley, as most cab drivers do, begins a conversation with Oswald, and he goes, I wonder what the hell this uproar is all about. And Whaley later stated that Oswald didn't even answer him, so he was just figuring he's one of those passengers that really didn't care much for conversation in the cab. How many people have taken a cab before? You know, usually the cab driver starts talking to you. Sometimes it's kind of fun, and sometimes people don't want to talk. And so they don't talk. And Whaley asked him, he said, I wonder what the hell this uproar is all about. And Oswald didn't even say a word. So he just figured, boy, it's one of these guys that doesn't like to talk when he's riding in a taxi. Well, Oswald was dropped off at the 500 block of North Beckley at the intersection of Neely and Beckley Street. Okay, Neely and Beckley Street. So this is Neely, for example. This is Beckley. Okay, he dropped him off right at the intersection of Neely and Beckley Street. And that happened at 12:54 p.m. when he dropped him off at Neely and Beckley. Now, if we know our directions very well, we'll say this is north and this is south, and this is east and this is west. If he dropped him off here, and he wanted, it's at 12:54. and he wanted to go down North Beckley Street, which way would he walk? He'd walk this way. So what he does is when he's dropped off at this intersection, the 500 block of North Beckley Street at the intersection of Neely and Beckley, he walks 3 blocks north to a boarding house where he lives. So he has him drop him off at that intersection, then walks 3 blocks north to his boarding house. And the address of his boarding house is 1026 North Beckley Street. That's where he lived, 1026 North Beckley Street. So after departing the taxi cab, he walked north 3 blocks to his boarding house, which was located at 1026 North Beckley Street. And he arrived there at 12:59 p.m. So he's at his boarding house at 12:59 p.m.
Is that house still there?
It's actually, that house is right here. And this is the lady that rented the room to Oswald in the boarding house. And this is her granddaughter who still lives there. We were in this boarding house, Blake and I, for quite a while. So all this stuff is really still there. And I'm going to show you all this as we go. So what does Oswald do? He goes to his boarding house and he just has a little room in there. The room he's renting, I'm not kidding you, would be about the length of these 5 desks right here. This is about how big it would be. Just about 5 desks back and about as wide. He just had a bed in there and a dresser. The boarding house had like 13 rooms that they rented to people. Okay? Well, he goes to his room and he grabs a light colored coat and a .38 caliber revolver. He goes to his room and he grabs a light coat and a .38 caliber revolver, which was news to the lady that owned the place because she specifically stated that they could not have any weapons in her boarding house. But he did. He snuck one in. So he gets there at 12:59. He grabs a light colored coat and his .38 caliber revolver, and he leaves the boarding house at 1:03 p.m. He leaves the boarding house at 1:03 p.m. How do we know that? Well, not that lady, but you're right on there. A housekeeper by the name of Earlene Roberts, who worked for one of the residents who was staying there, saw him. And I'll tell you what her quote was in a minute. So the reason we know he left at 1:03 p.m. is because housekeeper Earlene Roberts, who was employed by one of the tenants, reported that she saw him do that. Now, she didn't know he went out with a .38 caliber revolver. That will later be determined. But she described he left with a white, light-colored coat in his hand at 1:03. And this is what she said. She said, quote, Oswald was not running, but using a fast walk when he entered the boarding house. He went out walking fast the same way as I was listening to the broadcast about Kennedy. So she saw him go in about at 12:59 when she reported that, and she saw him leave at 1:03 with a light-colored jacket. But he did have a .38 caliber revolver. Now, no one has a clue. There were no witnesses to his route from that point until he arrived at the intersection of 10th Street and Patton Avenue in Oak Cliff. Nobody knows what route he really took, but they know he was at 10th Street and Patton Avenue in Oak Cliff. We know that. So there are no specific witnesses to the exact route Oswald took from his boarding house until he reached the intersection of 10th Street and Patton Avenue in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas. Now at this point, we'll stop at this for today. He was less than a mile from the boarding house and approximately 2 miles from the Texas School Book Depository where the assassination occurred. So at this point, when he's at the intersection of 10th and Patton, he's going to be less than a mile from his boarding house and about 2 miles from the Texas School Book Depository, which tells you that how did he get to work daily? Walked, for the most part. He could walk that far. Okay, and there's a story behind that later. We'll pick up tomorrow what happens at 10th and Patton. Okay? Good job.